Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'll be starting reviews for my 2022 Midwest Open tournament games. The Midwest Open was a 2-day event starting on March 12th and ending on March 13th. How the open bracket was played was it was 16 players, and instead of doing a usual just 4 rounds and you get paired with people of similar records, this was actually played in a bracket system. So before the event, all the players were seeded based on what they entered as, and were put inside a 16-man bracket. So if you lose, you're out, basically. You're out, you still play your rounds, but you're out of kind of climbing the ranks almost. So yeah, this is my first round game. It was against James Funk. The time settings for the games were 1 hour main time with 5 30-second overtime periods. So yeah, let's get into it. All the games we negated before the matches, so I got black. It is also AGA rules, so 7.5 Comey for white. Yeah, so opening, very standard, very standard. Even white protects there, and then we get into the double approach. So white attaches, Hane of course, and then attach. White, Hane's in the corner, I connect, and then here black has a few choices, but in the game I just simply extended. And then white, again, also has a few choices here, but white just jumps out in this move. The point of this move, it kind of looks kind of nebulous what this move is doing. It's being flexible. The point of this move is white doesn't know right now which one white might want to attack. Maybe white wants to invade the bottom, or maybe white wants to attack the left side. So white's leaving it up to black. White's saying, okay, whichever one you protect, black, I'm going to attack the other. So yeah, I think this move is pretty nice. And so I protect the bottom, partially because the bottom is what I can build, and two, when I fix this cut for white at e4 starts to work. You can't cut there unless you've fixed your cut at g3. Now, defending on the bottom is a little awkward because regardless of how you play, there's going to be some sort of oddgy. For example, if you connect like this, while it feels like that you're leaving no oddgy behind, it leaves this shoulder hit here, where white is asking, can I wrap around your stones here? Where if something like this happens, notice black can now not Hane because this is now an Atari. Whereas notice if white just Hane's first, black is of course able to Hane. If black tries to resist so somehow, then when white descends, now white's threatening this Hane and extending and coming out, so it's pretty dangerous. If you protect like this, again, you want to fix somehow. If you want to, at least that's what I wanted to do in the game, is fix the bottom. You play this one, then when white gets a move like this, white is now threatening h2 next. So even if you pincer, h2, again, this might not be directly Sente right now, but you get the idea, is that h2 is is a key spot for both sides. Very important place. And if you go all the way, you technically have not fixed your cut yet. While it is fixed momentarily, you care more about the side than the actual cut. So in the game, I chose this one. Now, the pros of this one, or the cons of this one, I should say, is it leaves this clamp. And we'll actually see this later, where if I try to resist, white descends, which is threatening this cut. And you can see black's just cut through. If I just block, though, then white can Atari. So in most cases, you want to just connect. And if white connects back, you can go elsewhere, maybe cut or stand up. But I played this way. I think maybe it's possible to play this. Kind of saying, okay, I'm taking apart white's left side and, white, do your worst on the bottom. But I think playing on the bottom is the way to go. but I went here. And then white, of course, follows through with this jump here where, okay, black, you fixed the bottom. I'm going to attack your left side now. And since I fixed this cut, I'm looking at cutting at e4 next, where if I can push and cut, I can cut white. Makes sense. But I wanted some extra thickness first, so I attached here and then pulled back and white fixed, and then I pushed like this. So I have just a few more friends nearby facing these weak white stones in the center. So here, white had a few options, and I think I knew how I would play as black, but it might look strange. So in the game, white went here. But this is a little slack, actually. Black just blocks, and black has a pretty nice base. So white can use the fact that there's a weakness here, right, of the diagonal of this Atari, to play other moves. So white can play this one. Again, if black tries to cut, then this is an Atari. If I hane, then when white pulls back, I still need to fix. So you can see white has, as opposed to the game move, which was just playing at b5, I still have some weakness, and white's base is a little bit bigger in the corner. So if I just pull back, yeah, it's very similar to the other one, but my base is, of course, I don't have a base. While I technically get sente, I don't have a base, and my shape is not great. The other move is this one, and this one is a nasty move where if I try to cut, white can now Atari this way and then go here. And black's actually just captured. Even though there's some cuts, a hane here, black's just captured. So, and if I do this one, again, I have to just allow white to connect back. So how I would play if white played either of these is actually play this one, the empty triangle. And the reason why is if white pulls back like this, while my shape isn't great, I actually have no cuts now that white can look at. Again, if I block here, notice I have cuts to worry about. So I played this one, and if white goes forward, so if white does this one, it would be the same as if white goes here. I would still play here, and then white would pull back. So it's just, you can see it ends up being the same. So the difference is, I'll do it from this one though. It's the exact same answer each time though. If white goes here, I'll play this move, and now my shape is actually not too bad. Also, white has a problem in the corner now. Because d5, or technically d6, the empty triangle, c5 is now not an Atari. Before, white could go here, and it's an Atari, but now white can't. Now, if I hane at c2, and white hanes back, which white would like to, now I can hane here. So there's a weakness now in white's corner. Yeah, white is unable to cut because you'd be captured. So white probably needs to fix in the corner. And again, white's corner is very big, so I'm not saying this is bad for white at all. Just saying this is how I would play. And also getting d6 also puts a little extra pressure on the white stones in the center. So yeah, again, not great for black, but this is how I would play. I'd play the empty triangle because it threatens c2 later. But yeah, white didn't do that. White just played the diagonal. And going back to the cuts, we reviewed this game a little bit afterwards. And yeah, they were saying black should probably just kick because it settles black. And now if you cut, it's a lot more severe. So this would force white to have to maybe fix somehow. And now you can just attack the whole thing as opposed to in the game when white just lives in the corner. I'm just attacking the tail, or just a small group in the center. Also here, white technically doesn't need to answer in the corner, because any move white plays will be gote, but it does leave some aji. So if white just goes elsewhere, something like this, black has two options. Black can, and they don't have to be immediate. So when I say black has options, I mean at some point black has options. So black can hane, and if you just connect, white's corner is smaller, but it's worth it for white to be able to get a move elsewhere. But black can actually double hane, and there's this ko. Now the thing with this ko is if black wins it, black is dead, or if black wins it, white is dead in the corner. But if black loses it, it actually does cost a lot of points. So it's not necessarily a flower coat for black, because black's bottom could get ripped up. The other move for black is to play this one. And then when white goes here, you descend. White plays b1. Black extends. White Ataris. White Hanes. And we would get the 1,000-year ko. And if you've never seen the 1,000-year ko, just know that it's a ko that neither player wants to play, because it forces the opponent to make the first, or to take first, and then you have to play the first ko threat. And neither side wants to fill the ko, because if white fills the ko, white's dead. If black fills the ko, it's seki. So it's a pretty strange scenario that would probably last for a while. Like, this would not be resolved immediately. So because it is a 1,000-year ko, maybe white didn't want that. So white Haned here to prevent that, and to prevent the other ko of the double Hane. But I ignore, because after this exchange, that would be enough for white. Because notice now, if I can't do the double Hane anymore, because this move at b2 is an Atari. So yeah, so I just go elsewhere. And yeah, this is not the move to play. It leaves way too much weakness, I think. So you'll see I play here, white jumps, and I jump here. I think I should just jump here. Just attack this from afar. If white comes over this way, then, you know, I can build the bottom while white runs in that direction. Or fix my shape, or just do something more productive. Yeah, you'll see in this game, I'm just super aggressive for no reason. And in some of my Midwest Open games, it's kind of a trend, actually. Yeah, so white's able to play there. I'm surprised white didn't make this exchange first. Even though I make bamboo joint this way, even just extend. Of course, that's much worse shape. I shouldn't say it's much worse shape, but the tiger's mouth here feels so good for black. It gives me much better access into the upper left and the upper areas of the board for free, basically. So I was surprised white didn't do that. But white's intentions become clear when white goes here. So there's a few ways white could play this, I think. So white could either do this, clamp, which again, all the way back when I was showing the differences on how to fix this cut, this is the one of the cons of playing the knight's move protection that I did, that white can clamp here. Another way white could play, I think, is pushing like this and then cutting. Because if I try to fight this, again, assuming I want to save the stone, I don't have to technically. But then white actually is just alive in the center. My gain on the bottom is okay, but it's not anything crazy. So let's assume I do fight this, because, you know, I have the ability to, right? These 3 stones don't get captured immediately. You can see that white can cut. I have to go here, squeeze. Assuming I save these stones because they're cutting stones, you can see that my shape gets really bad real quick. So even if white just fixes next, hard to help both sides. Really hard to help both sides. Yeah. So I thought white could potentially play that way, although it's a little vulgar to push through the knight's move. I think because my shape becomes even more vulgar, I think it's playable. When you do it this way, you can see black shape is actually okay here. Black shape is okay here. White extends, I jump. And so like this fight during the game while I was playing did not feel bad at all, but you'll see that this just ends up really bad for black. And I think I make some pretty bad exchanges, which led to the bad position. Because you can see, okay, so I've settled on the bottom while white is invading my bottom and is going to live. I have a weak group here to look at in the center. I have these 2 stones, which technically aren't weak, but they could be weak. And then this group on the bottom here. Here I thought white might try to play a little bit faster of attaching. But white simply just makes good shape. And yeah, one thing I learned about James in this game was that he's a very solid player. Very, very solid player. So he does not like leaving weaknesses. He doesn't mind spending a slow move to just fix things. Which is, I think, a good style. good style. So yeah, so like this is the start of the bad exchanges for black. So I Hane, okay, and white bumps, sure, and I lean, and then I jump. So the problem with these moves here is those groups that I was just saying was weak at this point, I just made stronger. And so that means I basically gave up any Aji of being able to attack them on a larger scale, I guess. And notice all I did at the end was just jump here. Like, maybe these exchanges are okay if I play this move. I didn't like this kind of move. Maybe it's okay, but if white jumps, like, yeah, maybe this is okay, though. Maybe I needed to just play N2 and just fight. If I'm going to make these exchanges, I have to take this fight towards the center, towards where I played those bad exchanges. Instead, I just jump here, which is a move you can see that I could just play without these exchanges. Like, I could just jump here, and in the game, white went here. Like, I could then attack the center in a much better way. So, yeah, I don't know why I made these. I don't know what I was thinking these exchanges were doing, but they were not good. So, don't do these exchanges. And white just lives. There is some Aji of being able to kill this, but I figured, okay, just connect back. Just take your few points in the center and let white take everything else. Because now, after white jumps here, white is 100% alive. And we discussed this a little bit, that there is some Aji here on the bottom side. But because this kind of move is sente towards the bottom, or this sort of move, white is okay. Is okay here. But this move, while it might be a little slow, like, white is okay with just settling. So it makes sense to go here. And so you can see, with my attack, what have I gotten? White's alive here. White's stronger in the center. White's strong on the right side. I let white into my corner, so I don't have the corner anymore. I got 5 points down here. So you can see, like, it's just bad. I had a chance, or the board was, I had 3 white groups I could lean on or attack, and I got basically nothing for it. Man, it might have been partially frustration, but you'll see. So I do these pushes. These are not great. I kind of understand it, where, you know, even if I try to attack the center, this move is sente, and then this push here, like, really, the 2 stones are really weak. So I get why I'm doing these pushes, but you can see, like, this is, again, helping white out. And again, look at these stones here. What are they facing? They're facing no weak white groups. They're facing, yeah, they're just, when you make thickness, when you attack, you want to see what you can use it for. And here, it's pretty unclear what I can use these exchanges for, what these stones here for. But yeah, I don't know if it's partially frustration or what, but I play here. And locally, this isn't a bad move, right? This sort of move can live with this sort of sequence here. Like this. Atari. And then, so you live very small, but you do take the corner, and white would have sente. But instead, I just descend, and you'll see I just die here. Like, yeah, I get nothing. Like, after the monkey jump, locally, I'm just dead. And even though I have this sort of strong tiger's mouth here, like, this cut is completely protected. No matter what I do, assuming, you know, white answers this, is just, like, because of these stones here, this, like, white is just safe. So I can never cut here, basically. These stones are out, and yeah, it's just, and I helped white's left side already. So the rest of the game is me trying to use these stones in the corner to get something. Because right now, white is already like 30 points ahead, and we're only at move 80. So yeah, something, going through this game back, you can just see like something went horribly wrong for black. And I think it started, I think the fighting was okay. Maybe this push here was a little early, but making these exchanges while trying to attack the bottom was definitely very, very bad. But yeah, white goes there. I jump here. So the jump, if this jump might trick I say trick, but it's not a trick move. It does work, but basically the idea is if white tries to push through an Atari, this move is sente. So I'm viewing this move as sente, And since that move is sente, I can jump here. This is the idea. But of course, he's a very strong player, so he answers correctly. And then I jump. So you can see it just becomes the same thing, just a little bit out of order. And jump there. So yeah, white can actually, if I just block, white can just fix that weakness in sente. So I don't even have time to block. I poke at the shape there. And then I hane here. Threatening the 4 stones. And like, white could technically just give up those 4 stones. Technically, all of my groups are alive. And yeah, I've already given up the upper left corner. Like, these 4 stones are not that big. It makes sense for white to answer because there's no way I'm going to kill this. But just saying white could offer a trade, and it would be still great result for white. Because again, what am I getting for this whole corner? Oh, just 4 stones and gote. But it makes sense for white to connect. If white wanted to connect, white has a better move of going here because this is sente. It's threatening the 2 stones. And even if I go here, white during the review was saying they were worried about the bottom side because this move would take away liberty. But again, when they can play L1 in sente, there's no problem. So going there, when I extend up, now it's a little more awkward to make an eye there because if white does this directly, I can Atari first and then fix. And now white doesn't have an eye there. If white goes here, I can go here and wedge the eye out. Notice white's unable to cut. The only way for white to make the eye now is to play this sequence first. And while not necessarily a bad sequence for white, it does make black shape there in the center much stronger. But when white has such a big lead, these sort of exchanges won't matter. But now white does not have an eye there in the middle there, so white's starting to run. And again, I have to connect back. White extends, and then I play this one. The idea with this one is if I just block, of course, white can peep here. So I didn't want to see that. So this move, while you see it does leave a weakness here, it is protected after this attachment here. White is unable to cut at G14. It's a ladder. White Ataris, and then jumps. So the rest of the game is me trying to get something for attacking the center. I gave white a huge corner in the upper left. I made white's bottom stronger. I made white's right stronger. And yeah, it's just me basically going into overdrive. Like, I got to get something. Yeah, because you can see where are black's points. I got 5 points on the bottom, maybe 3 on the left side, maybe a little bit more. The upper right's not even mine yet. Like, I have no points to my name in this game. So you'll see a lot of strange moves by black. But it's basically me knowing that I'm already so far behind that I have to do something about it. So I extend, white turns, hane, and attach. Again, I could pull back and get some points up top, but when white goes here, white's basically connected and game over. So I have to do something drastic. And I remember when I played this move, my opponent's head kind of tilted because they can just capture now the top stone. So I understand why they were confused, but again, I have to do something. I have to do something drastic. So I jump here. The point of this jump is I wanted to cap or do something more aggressive, but after this sort of push, there's some bad aji here. There's some bad aji here. So just jump, fix my shape. White plays here, and I cap. Dog face, and then play the weakness of the dog face. And so if white tries to cut me, I can hane here. And if they cut, I can Atari, was the idea. And if white connects, then I can connect. And again, I could maybe push here, but this would still not be enough. Because again, I'm even further behind because I gave white these 2 free stones up top. So this would not be enough. So I'd probably have to, after this one, keep the attack going with something like, I don't know, like this. Again, not great, but I got to do something. So they block there. I pull back. They connect. And now I give up even more points, but I give myself more forcing moves by doing it this way. Again, if I do something like this. I only get one forcing move, but I don't lose as many points, or something like this. But I needed as many forcing moves as I could get, so I cut and went this way. And Atari, and then push through. Extend, block, Hane, extend, and then white plays here. Yeah, it looks okay. Threatening to cut while threatening to connect as well. So I connect. And so here, so during the game, what I read was if I cut directly, they could cut. And I would have to do this sort of exchange. And if I play here next, threatening to connect, it doesn't quite work because after they Hane here, I have to cut, and then I have a shortage of liberties here. Like this. But it turns out, technically I'm okay because I can Atari once more. I say okay, but what I mean by that is, like, I can still follow through with my plan. Of course, locally this is still horrible for black, but I can make that one exchange, and actually making that one exchange does mean now, after this, even though white can capture the 5 stones or so, I can, actually, yeah, it still doesn't, oh, I can just connect. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, capture liberties. Yep, I can just connect. So it doesn't, after this, doing this extra Atari, this extra push, I have an extra liberty. And so white would be cut. So that would be a success for black. But the thing is, after this, white can just connect. I have to connect. And this move gets an eye. Like, there's no way I can prevent this eye. And even though it solidifies the corner for me, if white just lives, something like this, like, white's gained so much on the top, and white would just win. There's no way I can compete with the upper left. So white could have still played this way and won. In the game, so I was trying to prevent that by playing this move first. Just trying to do something a little bit out of order. White just connects, and then I cut. But again, if this same thing happened, it would just become the same thing. So it didn't actually help me at all. It would just become that last sequence I showed, just a little bit out of order. But white peeps instead. And here, I was noticing there was some Aji up top. And also, it's important to note that I'm not sure it quite happened yet, but we had an hour of main time, and my opponent used a lot more time early on than I did. So I maybe had used 20 minutes, but my opponent was getting close to Byoyomi or was in Byoyomi at this point. I forget what. So, yeah, keep that in mind as well for when the game continues, because time trouble is a real thing, even with stronger players. So yeah, white peeps, and if I just connect, yeah, this sort of move is sente because it's threatening this peep. So if I take out the eye, this peep here means white could cut, like so. So I didn't like that, so I was trying to get something a little bit extra by wedging here, and white Ataris, and I connect, and this almost works. The problem is when white cuts, I didn't see that this was threatening to ladder the 3 stones here. So if I do something else, cut, yeah. Even though I have all these stones nearby, white doesn't even need to take me towards them, because then after this I can't connect. So at this point, I may have actually facepalmed because I didn't see that this cut was a ladder, and I was like, oh my god, I have to spend. So I just let white capture the 4 stones in sente. Like, I'm about to resign, basically. But white turned, and this gave black even a slight chance, because there's some Aji on the upper side of this cut here. And that was the whole point of me wedging here to begin with, was I was setting up this cut here. And so at face value, it looks like this cut just does not work, right? Like, Atari down, I extend down, but there's just nothing, right? There's nothing works there. But there's a shortage of liberties white has to watch out for. So white Atari'd, and I turned. So the point of this turn is if white Atari's here, which white should do this, but I can descend, and notice now white cannot Atari either side, so I can actually capture the 3 stones here. So I could save the upper left. The thing with this, though, is I actually gave up a lot of points to make this sequence happen, so white's actually still doing okay in this game, even though I bring the upper left back to life. If white, if white Atari's, that's what happens. In the game, what white does is Hane, but this allows me to make a ko, because now notice white's unable to Atari me at k18, which would make it not a ko, because white's in Atari. So white has to, so now we have a giant ko, basically. And so all those groups that I cut up earlier, I can now use as ko threats. So I can threaten to kill the bottom side. White goes there, play there. White Atari's use local threats, sure. Atari. White connects. White does not want to see me capture this clump of stones, because it would then capture I would save the 4 stones again. So I can descend now, and notice again white's in the same liberty issue problem. So white takes. I wedge again, going after the bottom side. White Atari's, and then take, and then white just plays here, and then I connect it. And so I was actually able to bring the upper left back to life, but also kill the entire top. Now, what I find so fascinating is I put this game in an AI just to see how black was doing at this point, and it is like even. It is even after I bring the upper left back to life and kill the upper side. That's how far behind I was. Is after this point, it's only even. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy to me. That shows that I made a lot of mistakes. But what's not even is our time. Because at this point, white is definitely running very low on time, and that becomes a big issue for white. So white plays there, and I play this large knights, kind of saying, okay, I made this wall earlier here, so I may as well try to use it against the lower side. White descends, I descend, of course, and then white turns, and then I descend, just to fix my shape there. White Atari's fixes their shape, and then I fix my shape. And so black shape looks a little funny here, but black is all connected. There's no way for white to disconnect black. But then white goes elsewhere. And this is not... So locally, yes, that move is very big, right? It threatens the corner, and the corner is, it's not looking great for black. But white ignored the lower side, or the lower right. And so, is there something black can do? So, I just Hane, white blocks here, and I can push, and Hane. And notice, all of a sudden, white does not have 2 eyes. So I pull back here. Again, I'm getting rid of the eyes there that white could get. There's some forcing moves, even if I feel like this. It's hard to play, actually not that one. After this, it's hard to find a good move for black. Because if I connect, the clamp works. So I have to fix that weakness. White cuts, and here we both make a mistake. Here I play there once, which is Sente, and then go there. But this would allow white the chance to just live. And even though I live in the upper side, white lives on the right side, which is lower right, which is much bigger. But white answers me, and then I go back and start the ko. So I think I should just start the ko immediately. Because I have the threats of going here. I can use these threats here as ko threats. But I use a ko threat first, and then start the ko. And so now, since white added an extra stone here, now it's a bigger corner even if white wins the ko. Because now I'm threatening to capture 2 stones in a bigger corner. So now white's more invested in the stones. So white answers. Go there. White plays there. I can push once. It looks scary, but we'll see in a second that black is actually okay on the right side. Play there. Turn. Again, white needs to make sure the upper right doesn't die. So white wedges in, creating cutting points, which is helping white to live. But again, I don't mind. I'm just taking the ko, fix that, fix the cutting points, and then connect. Same thing. White has to live. And there is actually a problem with this move, and we'll get to that in a second. Play there. White cuts, and I actually just take. Because even though white cuts, white has to, so white plays there once. White has to push in here to make sure I don't have two eyes. And now it's a liberty race. But who has more liberties? Of course, black has a ton more liberties because I can go here and notice white is unable to cut. Because capture. So in the game, white went here, but white actually still can't cut because white doesn't have enough liberties after this. So black has a lot of liberties. White has a lot of liberties. So white's trying to extend their liberties or just poke at the shape. So white hanes to reduce liberties, but there's a problem. Black can play R18. And so it looks like, oh, but you just get captured, right? 3 liberties to 2 liberties, but I can hane. They Atari. And they have to go here, but notice now, do you see the move? I can play O19, which is a double Atari. So it's the same thing as if I just Atari'd first like this. It's the same thing. White has to take, and then I could just go here. It's the same thing. And you could do it that way if you wanted to. But I was just leaving that exchange because usually you don't want to make exchanges unless you have to. So since I know this just works and I know it's big either way white takes, I thought it was okay doing it this way. So white actually saves the corner, but I'm able to play here. And white still can't even cut me because after this cut here, this is a double Atari. So yeah, I'm just connected, and so white tries for a little bit more, but there's just not enough room there to make 2 eyes. And so white eventually resigned right here. And so what started out as a very bad game for black ended up as a very bad game for white. And part of that, I think, was, I'll always say, if this game had infinite time, white wins by a landslide. But, you know, time controls and time pressure is a real thing. And so you just got to, you know, use your time better, I guess. And yeah, it was cool because James was a really good sport about it, even though he did have a much better position. He came up after the game, and the Teisuji I played up top of the cut, he came up to me and said, Soren, I'm never going to forget this game because I'm never going to forget that Teisuji that you played. And so I thought that was very nice of him to say, even though the loss was... like if I was white and I lost this game, I would too be pretty upset or frustrated. But he seemed like he was taking it with stride. So yeah, this cut here, he said he would never forget this move. So I thought that was a nice gesture by them. But yeah, so I won. So I made it to the next round, the round of 8. And in the next video, I will go over that game. So yeah, if you have any questions about this game, please let me know. And I'll see you all in the next video.